My brothers, and my sisters, welcome once again to Blackmen Declare. Godfather here, Mike Side, joined in the virtual studio by Cyber Key, by Truth and the Peacemaker. We welcome you once again to Blackmen Declare. Off the jump, we want to ask you to go ahead and hit that subscription button, hit that like button and notification, so you'll be up to speed whenever we come on air, dealing with subject matter from a black man point of view. So much is going on in our world today, and it's fitting, I believe, my brothers, that we have a particular dialogue. I will share with you that earlier today, in dialogue with some brothers, we had an opportunity to once again discuss the bipolar reality of America. And part of that bipolar reality is just in the freedom of speech, in that while we know what's theoretically and allegedly guaranteed in the First Amendment, we seem to have always struggled is seeing its application being applied to us. From the beginning, there seemed to have been this disconnect where we did not have freedom of speech. As a matter of fact, that denial of this right as citizens of this United States of America was so ingrained that even our ancestors, our mothers, fathers, grandparents, great-grandparents, would even sometimes attempt to protect us with an indoctrination about those things we could and those things we could not say. And so tonight we like to discuss this additional bipolar reality in America and how now, based on events that's happened most recently, it's really brought it to the forefront. We know that last week there was a murder that took place on the college campus when a young man was murdered while speaking to a group of college students, Charlie Kirk. And we know there's been all types of dialogue about that. But we just want to use that as our reference point in discussing yet still what exists today on a broader basis, because now all of America is feeling this same kind of situation. If you just think about over these last few years, if you had a question about Israel, you would be deemed anti-Semitic. And as a matter of fact, if you went so far as to suggest that you should boycott products that may have been produced or manufactured or assembled in Israel, there were legislation being developed that would say that you had broken the law. So tonight, brothers, once again, let's dive into this thing. And like I say, if you go back and look at it from the beginning, there seems to have been this disconnect. And so in reality, you could have an asterisk about around this particular freedom, because when you look at all of the anti-black petitions that took place with Jim Crow, with black codes, segregated schools, the list could go on and on. And not only that, when you think about the church itself, where you were not having an opportunity to go in and truly you would have an opportunity to teach or to lead. But Cyber, when you think about all of this that's going on right now today, again, on the grander scheme of things, how does this freedom of speech, where you have a young man on a college campus where he has spoken in the past about it being a scam, and at that particular college, my understanding is there was 6,000 petitions signed that said he shouldn't come on, and 1,000 signed that he should, yet he came on. and the administration went with the 1,000 versus the 6. I'd like to just hear what are your fundamental foundational comments tonight on this subject matter of freedom of speech.
Peace to my brothers, my colleagues in this fight for truth, freedom, justice, and equality. I think in my open soliloquy that I say every week, freedom is mentioned, and I believe strongly in the freedom of speech, no matter how indifferent I am to others' opinion. I believe that they have the right to say it, and I think that America's foundation is built on that plus some other things, but the freedom of speech is one of Americans' principles. And any attack on that principle means that you're attacking the foundation of the country. And so while I am not of in agreement with anything the young man said, I'm not most things that he said, I'm not in agreement. Uh, um, but he has the right to say it, and he shouldn't be murdered or killed for saying it. We have the one thing I did like about what he did was that no matter what he believed, he also invited people to come debate with him. It wasn't like he was running away from it like some others that want to say things but then run away from what they're saying. So again, I'm a very strong believer in the freedom of speech. That's what makes America, or supposedly makes America what it's supposed to be. And any attack on that, I believe as an American citizen, none of us should stand for the attack of freedom of speech.
That's a powerful, powerful opening statement, my brother. And I know, Peacemaker, you have a unique perspective being where you sit today as you reflect back over your years in working in that particular arena. How do you see, again, the concept of freedom of speech? Do you feel, think, or believe that that truly was practiced? Because I agree with Cyber, all of us should have the capability, even if we disagree with each other, you should have the freedom to your own opinion.
Greetings to our sisters and brothers of Blackmen Declare, and to our guests, my brothers here. I do not feel that we should, or that we did have the same freedoms as others. As my experience is that as long as you um, quietly do your work, don't cause a lot of fuss, don't cause a whole lot of saying no, then it's sort of get along to get along. Unfortunately, there have been times that I have taken that road, and then those are times that there have been other times that I've polar opposite, and spoke up against the injustices of whatever happened. And one time I was blackballed from something, and but I was able to articulate and have discussion with those decision makers, and their minds was changed. Um, Again, being a part of the system, you have to choose your words wisely, and I found myself um, dancing on a tightrope, but still understanding that if no one else will speak up, I have to speak up. And ultimately, God had my back.
Powerful. That's who you want to have your back, I think, at all times. True. You also bring a unique perspective. We miss you on our dialogue with the military, but with you being in the military and then working with the military after getting out of the military, I think you would have a very unique perspective on this freedom of speech. I've never been in the military, but I understand just based on what's required and necessary, there is somewhat of a restriction. But but how do you look at this freedom of speech given that you have a very unique perspective as it relates to the military.
First of all, I would like to thank everyone for being on tonight on this Blackmen Declare. Being in the military, you have what we say: you're not a Democrat, or you're not a independent, you're not a Republican. What you do is defend the Constitution of the United States. And so, saying that, I think freedom of speech is a right that is given to everyone for protection. But now, when you start talking about violence, I condone that. But I just want to pull up statistics that were taken by the University of Vanderbilt University, basically what it said that the United States, this was the Futures Free Speech at Vanderbilt University taken in March 19, 2025. It's basically stated that the U.S. has fallen from 3rd to 9th place in the global ranking for support of free speech since 2021. So, 2021. So can you take this when 2021 ended, the administration 44 was in, then 45 came in, and this survey was taken in 2025. So that can tell you the global ranking, what caused all of this. So we in the United States, for as the present day, face a dilemma on what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. According to this report that I pulled up today, it was brought on by one of the CNN contributors. His name was Scott Jennings, and Keith Oberman basically said on the social media that he's that you are next. He was talking about calling Scott Jennings a fascist and said you're next, MF. And what he did, Scott Jennings came out and said that was a threat, and he brought it up to the FBI director, Kash Patel. So we have to be smart when it comes down to people saying a threat and non-threat or whatever. But we got to use our words wisely, according to Peacemaker. So again, being in the military and out of the military, when I worked with the federal government, you have to be careful of what you say and how to say it back. I have to be smart. But freedom of speech is a right. And for as being in the military, you have to be careful what you say, because you can be disciplined when you get down into that political confrontation. But again, freedom of speech is a right, and you have to be smart about it. Say that in the love.
Brothers, I can tell you that when I was growing up, my grandmother loved me, and I know she loved me. But she shared with me that I should be very careful, especially when we had left the South and moved north. And said that you because I was a kind of aggressive child, and I think the truth can remember that, can attest to that. But at the end of the day, I thought I was always fair. But when I think about an Emmett Till and what happened to him because of an alleged whistle, we don't know if it happened. But even if he did, or it was supposed to have been an alleged comment about, you're pretty, whatever it may have been. And we all know what happened to Emmett Till, how he was brutally murdered. And then his mother pushed the envelope by demanding he have an open casket at his homegoing celebration. Now, Cyber, we know in the field that you're in, I'm sure you see, how, and you've always said to us, hey, everybody should have the freedom of openness. Everybody should have the freedom to speak. Everybody should have open access to the internet. And I agree with that, because, there could be a push to say, to have access to the internet, you got to pay a subscription yourself. And think about it, the internet is nothing is more powerful in terms of freedom of expression and freedom of speech than the internet. Yet we know there are those who have been taken off of the internet, who have shows that have been shut down because they have not had the freedom of speech. So, Cyber, how do you see, if you put on your crystal ball, what do you see? Do you see, given the climate and the stats that truth is shared, that there's going to be perhaps a continuing push to put more pressure for regulation on the internet and the freedom of speech that exists today?
That's loaded. To answer your question succinctly, I think yes, but the long view of it is it's already I think 3 or 4 people that's controlling the information that we view and see already. And you're talking about social media, you're talking about the Zuckerbergs own both Facebook and Facebook and Instagram. You're talking about Elon, who we know where he stands, controls X. You know, the only platform that we have that is controlled by us at this moment, that's why, at least somewhat widely used. There's other black creators out there that have created apps, but they're not as widely known, but fan base. And this is the danger of black people so willingly giving up infrastructure. And this is one of the negatives when I look back over history, and I always look back, at civil rights. This is one of the drawbacks of not having visionaries, or long-term visionaries, I should say, in our community at that time. I know that's a tough challenge for anyone to swallow, but I dare anyone to challenge me on it, because history shows that our fathers were not forward thinkers as it relates to the future of Black America. Now we're in a situation where all infrastructure, we're talking about freedom of speech and media, but all infrastructure, we integrated into a system that took every piece of infrastructure that we own. The newspapers, you got to think how many black newspapers and magazines and stuff that we had, and we gave it all up in order to quote unquote sit in the front of the bus, to drink out of a water fountain, to stay at the same hotels. We had no forward thinking, right, wrong, and indifferent. This is where I give, I'm not even sure of the right word I'm looking for, but this is where I give credit, at least, to the Jewish founding fathers, because they had forward thinkers. Thinkers thought about, whether you want to call them evil, whatever. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to show a contrast on fathers of one group versus fathers of another, and how it all panned out. You can argue with it all you want, but the history shows they thought forward. You look at what they control. We didn't think forward. Look at what we don't control.
That's powerful, because many have said, if you control the printing press, you control the thought dynamics. So the same thing is true to the internet. I believe if you can control that, you'll be able to control the algorithms that drive what many of us see and what people are led to believe. Because when you have that kind of control, you literally can, with software packages that are available today, scan in very little time to see and to ascertain what's going on. What is this group saying? What is that group saying? And that's why today we live in a world where so much is driven by poll numbers, so much is driven by data and by statistics and what this group is thinking and what that group is thinking. And again, Peacemaker, when you look out into the world today, and from a standpoint of ministry, and from a standpoint of those in pulpit, especially on any given Saturday or Sunday, primarily Sunday, I know, but some do it on Saturday. What kind of message should these people be sharing as it relates to freedom of speech and speaking the truth? I know recently, and Brother Cornell West say this all the time, and the brother Claude from Duke University said, until we begin to become a nation of truth tellers, telling the truth, there's no way we are going to rid ourselves of this bipolar reality that would cause someone, and going back to the example last week, to supposedly and allegedly, we're just reporting what's been said in the media, the best we can get from everybody. What are you going to do when you see this kind of response? I agree with what Cyber said earlier. We don't wish evil on anyone, and all of us, we're researchers. We're sharing what the research shows. It's not like we've internalized all of this. We want to get that straight. But what should the pulpit be doing, Peacemaker? What should be happening in the churches, the mosques, the synagogues, the temples, and as it relates to freedom of speech? Because my understanding is even there is also sometimes an attempt to stifle conversation, to stifle freedom of expression. Like to hear your comments on
Well, I think when you look at some of the what we would say well-known preachers over this past several weeks, they have spoken about the fact that yes, though this man claimed to be a Christian, look at his character, look at his what he spoke. You can't you can't say that you are a follower of Christ and claim to be one who speaks about peace and love, but yet your words are, as we discussed several weeks ago, your words are, I can't trust them. If they were in leadership, I would not feel safe. When he talked about separatism, when he talks about the fact that yes, we should, he should not have empathy or sympathy for people who don't have it or not. So I think that what the message from most pulpits has been, though we empathize with the killing, the murder of this man, but we don't empathize or we don't condone the message that he spoke. And just because he said he was a follower, but if he doesn't act like a follower, then he ought not be held up to such a high esteem. I think it is our responsibility as those who share across the pulpit is to always speak the truth, because that's what the word of God is. It's the truth. Now, we can get caught up in denominational theology and what have you, but at the base and foundation, it's the truth, and it's about how you conduct yourself. And so I know, like I said, there's been several pastors who have vehemently said, we don't condone the violence, we don't condone the murder, but we also are not applauding him and setting him up as a martyr, because he's not.
it's good to know that brothers are taking a position, but a little deeper on the question, do you think in the church itself there's a suppression of freedom of speech? Do
Uh,
you?
yeah, I think what we've had and what we had in the 80s, we had this whole coming together with churches being financed by the federal government and or getting grants. And one of the stipulations from some of these grants and some of these fundings is that they will be careful about what they spread, what message they came across. It was the church incentive, or I can't remember the exact terminology, but basically it was the federal government coming in and saying, we will give you funding to support your church, its outreach ministries and outreach activities, but you you have to get to the place where you say, okay, if I have something I want to say, or if there's something that I don't want you to say, then you have to come back and you have to agree with what I'm saying. So I think when the church does not have the autonomy that it's supposed to have, and that there is a separate between state and church, I think that's when you are allowed to speak the truth, say it, whatever you want to say, and not be held accountable to no one but the people you serve and God.
And I would think that we all would agree, including Cyber Key, it's all faith-based organizations probably have an element of suppression from its membership. And some of it is necessary for just decorum, for structure, for facilitation of dialogue, but not to the point to where you would want to stymie or not allow a dissenting point of view to be brought forward. You know, dialogue and even dissenting points of view, I don't believe should be points of disagreement. It should be okay, we disagree on that particular point, but it should not cause us to feel have a fear of reprisal. That okay, now I can't say this because the leader is going to feel that I'm not supportive, and that many times in my mind it could be the furthest thing from the truth. That person that may seem to be that contrarian may be that person that can help you grow and expand your mind, your thought process, your vision, as Cyber mentioned earlier. Think about it. If the only thing you had around you were a bunch of yes men or yes people, yes women, and the only thing they ever did was say yes, yes. Think of where that came from. Yes, sir, boss. Yes, sir, boss. that remind me back in the old days, Cyber, when you used to see the movies and all the movies we was in those subservient roles, and we were always, being suppressed. We would have something to say. We go and like we do a lot of times now. How many times have you been in the corporate world, Cyber, where, and I know you don't see many brothers in the work that you do, but how many times have you yourself been in situations to where people came to you, they said something in the workforce or outside of it, where they wanted to say something, but they didn't because of fear of reprisal? I mean, hopefully you encourage them, but have you experienced that?
Yes, on a frequent basis in the workplace. Mostly work remote, so most of the time it's over phone calls or through Teams messages, something. So sometimes they may call you off the Teams chat or whatever to say what they want to say. Right, wrong, indifferent, or fortunately, or whatever the word you're looking for. I probably am not the best person for this because I have a tendency to say things that before it gets out of before I think about it. Sometimes better than I used to be when I was in my 20s and 30s. But I just say what I say, man, and let the chips fall. But then you start thinking about. I think I got a little emotional thinking about other people's feelings and things. So sometimes even I hold back and of what I want to say, when I start thinking about other people's feelings, how they think. I don't care what they think about me. I've never cared about that, or what happens as far as work or what. I feel like God is always in control of me, so I never had an issue like dealing with, well, what if I say something and they don't like it? Well, it is what it is. If my work doesn't speak for itself, and you let something that I believe in my heart or say out of my heart, or if it's a mistake that I said and you know, you decide to terminate, then it is what it is. That's just the way it is. My work didn't mean anything, and then you go on and you find, you do something different. But others, you begin to see, I see people who have family issues. They need a job for health insurance and things like that. So you begin to take a softer approach, and you begin to see, well, maybe they can't say what they want to say because, they really need this for insurance purposes and stuff like that. So you begin to have a little heart, you have more of a heart and understanding when people don't speak out on things that you think they should speak out on or whatnot. You have to look at people's situation and determine it. Like, and I be truthful, like that's a growth on my part that I came to understand, like, because I used to get mad. I didn't even want to hang around people who didn't speak up with issues that just was me. That's just my nature. But as I got a little older, I guess a little more wiser, you begin to see, man, he needs this for something else. And fortunately, I was put in a situation where I didn't. God, in that area, I was God showed me a little more favor in that situation, and so I begin to see other people for the situation that they in, so I don't hold it against them. If they don't speak out, I don't hold it against them. If nobody don't want to speak out on the issue, hey, God gave me a voice. Why don't I do it? Why?
Mm-hmm.
That's my whole thought process. If you see somebody and you don't feel like they speaking up, then you take the lead and speak up. Why? Or you take the realm and do something, man. So that's just the approach that I begin to adopt later in life.
Well, brother, what you're describing is what Daniel Goldberg called emotional intelligence, where you got to a point to where, in that case, it wasn't so much that you had a fear of speaking, but for speaking up, it was like you had emotional empathy. So and as we grow, you're right, we develop hopefully some emotional empathy, and they even say it's called emotional intelligence. It's not always an IQ intellectual quotient. It's sometimes emotional intelligence, and there's a somebody that's 1600 Pennsylvania that seems to lack emotional intelligence. I mean, I saw a clip the other day, Truth, where they asked 47 about the death of Charlie Kirk, and they said, "How you doing? And it seemed like a reporter was trying to show some empathy to 47. How you feeling? And what about Charlie?" And he said, "Oh, I'm good." And then they said, "You see the work we're doing on the ballroom and how it's." I mean, in an instant. I mean, he didn't take a second to say something like, "Well, it's really been a difficulty, especially after all we heard about, how much he loved him." And what do you think about that, Truth? I mean, is that another example of the lack of emotional intelligence, this empathy that Cyber Key just mentioned?
It can tell you a lot about a person's action, the way they talk, and how they interact with individuals. So it told the story. I can't really say anything else. When a person asks you a question and you said a couple of words and then you turn around and pointed out what a beautiful, what he said. I don't know how many. I don't know how many years it said. 150 years we made. I'm laughing because it's a person that is it's all about self. Me, myself, and I. And when Jimmy Kimmel mentioned, I'm gonna go to Jimmy Kimmel, mentioned that what happened. He wasn't talking about Charlie Kirk. He was talking about Trump, what he did. And oh, here we go again. I don't like what he said about me. He's talking about me. And that's what's the bottom line. It's all about self. Don't have any empathy. So that's all I have to say, Godfather. He don't have
But
empathy.
well, that's a lot right there, because obviously you have to have empathy to be a leader. And Cyber said something very powerful that as he matured, as he grew, and think about it sometimes, even when we may be having a discussion, and you have things you could say, but you just hold them back. And then sometimes, see, if you want to now help that person grow, you may go and say, hey, brother, let me share. You mind if I share this with you? They say, well, okay, good. Come on and share with me. And then you share. And it could help them because I can remember, as Cyber saying, those days when you at a place and you don't agree with what's being said and you want your position, this got to be the correct position and so on and so forth. But you learn over time, all you're doing is going to create perhaps an enemy. And we have to know some people, they can't take the truth. Remember the day, you can't handle the truth. But over time, I think, Cyber, that you begin to see the benefit of that. And this even when we think about in our own families, in our own circle of friends, that you will sometimes know and understand that, hey, I can't really be straight with this particular person because they can't handle the truth. And so we have to come up with strategies to say, how can I work with this person? How can I get them to know and to understand? Because if I exercise my freedom of speech, it may be difficult for them to receive. And so, Cyber, when you have witnessed, and I know you've had some of these experiences, to where you just want to call somebody a knucklehead, or you want to pop them upside the head because they seem to be so far out of the left field. What is the value of bringing them back into the camp and getting them to understand that, hey, we want to have freedom of speech, we want to chat with you, but you got to now mature so we can really chat with you.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. But before I say that, I wanted to say I was going to come back in and chime in on what I said earlier. Like Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "Whoever among you sees an evil, let him change it with his hand. If he is not able, then with his tongue, and if he is not able, then with his heart, and that is the weakest of faith." Meaning that if you see something going on, you see it evil, do something with your hands to correct the situation. If not, speak out about it. Like we're talking right now, speak out about it. And if you can't speak out about it, then, have compassion in your heart, for that person or for that situation. So I think that was relevant for what we was talking about, and it came to mind. But when somebody's talking ill, man, and it's funny because right, wrong, and different, like I always say, like in our culture and our families, y'all know how that go, man. With some of the people in our culture, man, say some of the dumbest things at the weirdest times or whatever, and sometimes you can't get across to them, but you still need to say something. You still need to get it off your chest that you tried to correct the situation. And then once they, tune you out or put the hand up or whatever, then you have to back up, and then they have to take that sword, whatever the consequences is. I've heard someone say, like, we have the right for to control what we say. If we want the freedom of speech, we can say what we want to say, but we can't control the consequences. So, you always have to think about that. What are the consequences, for me saying whatever I want to say? I'm going to say it, but what are the consequences that's going to happen? And if you can't deal with the consequences, then shut your mouth.
Powerful. That's powerful, brother. When you said that, it made me think about Muhammad Ali. Can you remember some of those early conversations that he had with the Europeans, the white folks, when he was schooling them on themselves in this very regard, and their lack of emotional intelligence and lack of empathy? And he tells the story of coming back after winning the gold medal in the 1960 Olympics, I believe, and he wants to go and eat in downtown Louisville, and he goes in to have breakfast now, thinking that he's the heavyweight, champion in the Olympics and gold medal and all of this. And the lady selling the waitress says, "We don't serve your kind." And I'm, and from that point forward, the visionary, the verbal mastery of words and examples that he used to in imagery. That I remember him telling Howard Cosell, "I made you." Now think about that. In those days, to have that kind of courage to speak up, and look what happened. Because he spoke the truth, by the time at the end of his life, his level of respect had never been higher, never been greater. And he was a brother, one of those brothers that could go into a room just like a Frederick Douglass could back in the day and speak the truth. And nobody in the room thought about anything other than, I need to listen to this man who made a conscientious decision. I'm not going over there and kill those people in Vietnam. They ain't did nothing to me. Come back and tell them, you white folks, y'all have hurt my people more than they have hurt my people, and receive it. Okay, so, I would go back to you, Peacemaker. What can we learn from Muhammad Ali's example of speaking the truth? And he had a unique way of injecting humor into the process. But I love to go back and listen to that brother, man, and some of those interfaces with people. I'm sure he was blowing their minds. Come on, brother.
I think that the main thing is that he spoke the truth, and that he spoke with a boldness and a confidence and an understanding that what he was sharing was the truth, despite if it hurt anyone's feelings or not. What I've recently just seen, and we talked, the brothers was talking about some stuff earlier this morning about the whole Jimmy Kimmel, and brother Truth spoke about it, how this man show was taken away from him, his late night show. And because of people standing up with him, the protests, Disney losing anywhere between $4 to $5 billion in canceled TV shows. I think the protests and the loss of the lack of money. And I think when you hear stuff like what Muhammad Ali was said, what other Black activists would say, is that they spoke truth and they spoke protests. And I think that that's what we have to do sometimes. Sometimes our actions and our words have to coincide, and we will have to bring about a protest. We currently know that there's a protest against Target drugstores or Target stores, and they are now beginning to give in to the pressures due to the lack of money and due to the pressures that Black churches and people have come to. So I think with Muhammad Ali, with this Jimmy Kimmel situation, with anything, I think when we speak with boldness, when we speak the truth with boldness and assurance, and then we have some form of action or protest, I think that brings about clarity and strength to whatever argument we have.
Powerful observation, my brother. And, that leads me to thinking about Brother Truth. You lived in the South and you've traveled the world. You lived in the North. Do you see, did you experience, or have you experienced any difference in what you feel is your freedom to express yourself during the course of your career or even now? Have you gained a greater sense of independence to speak the truth? That's what we all want to do, is speak the truth.
Yes, I have. Thank you. Powerful question there, Godfather. as you research and start to evaluate, what you see, what you learn back, down south, I'm like, then today, I said, wait a minute, something not right here. And to see the truth, and what we see today, what I see today, when you research, you say, wow, I did not know this. I did not know this. And one question you asked, and I'm go back for his leadership, for his leadership, you have to have leadership qualities. Leadership qualities entails what I have learned is you go back and say empathy. And once that empathy come in, you have communication, and once you have communication, you have accountability. And some of this integrity, creativity, problem solving, self awareness, decision making, active listening, collaboration, innovation. So some of those leadership qualities come in hand as you listen. And I found out and had to learn the hard way. And I always say, quick to hear and slow to speak. And that was one of the things that I always didn't do. And now, as I have grown, I have learned to you really listen. When you listen, you can hear some of the things that people say. And so, wait a minute, something not right here. So that's one of the things that I have grown from being in the South until going up north. I have learned those differences, But again, brothers, if you don't have that leadership, those leadership qualities, as you mentioned about Muhammad Ali, he had a leadership quality that he empathized and he didn't, exploit people, the way other people did, but he spoke the truth. And once he spoke the truth, they couldn't say nothing on him. And that's the day when I'm learning today. Once you speak the truth, they don't have anything on you. I say that in love.
One of the tactics I use, brother, is a follow-up to what you're saying and speaking the truth. I can remember I would simply say to someone, do you mind if I share something with you? And I found that if we ask a question, because we all can discern when if you just spoke the truth, it would cause a problem. And see, that's the problem or the challenge for most of us in the Charlie Kirk thing, is that so much of America is confused because they thought he spoke the truth. But Cyber, he spoke a lie. Now, he had every right. But when you're speaking a lie and you're breeding unrighteousness, then that's a problem. And so the thing that we have to do oftentimes, unfortunately, is that we almost literally have to ask before we can speak the truth. Now, the reason why that's such an important connection is that when you ask someone, hey, do you mind if I share this? Now, in their brain, what their brain, of course, is to be trained as their own slave, now they put themselves in a receptive position, a receptive mode. And now when they're in that receptive mode, they are able to have a breakthrough because now you're able to speak into that opening that has been made available to them. So you come from an area where the oldest sitting Supreme Court justice is from. What happened to that brother? And when you think about freedom of speech, is his all of his attempts, and we just speculate, we don't know the answer, but when you listen to his conversation or the briefs that are allegedly written by him, what kind of, I don't even know what word to say, what kind of programming have that brother received? What happened to him to where he came to a point to where now he didn't ever say nothing for a long time, and now every time he writes up something about Black people, it's trying to take us back 200 years. I know this may not be specifically, but I think it is in the sense where when he had a chance to speak as the oldest sitting, longest term justice, what did he do? What happened to that brother that he didn't use that opportunity to speak the truth like Muhammad Ali, like Elijah Muhammad, like Minister Farrakhan, like Reverend Barber, like Cornel West, like so many of these other brothers?
My brother, that's a question that I've been really pondering for quite some time now. And the reason why I was pondering is because I wanted to know what happens to the psyche of black men as they move it up, these ladders, whether it's corporate, whether it's judicial, no matter what field you in, what happens when you hit that crossroad. And what crossroad am I talking about? I'm sure all of us have hit some crossroad where we say we're gonna be silent. We're just gonna, go on and do what we have to do to make this money to take care of our family. Uh, I think Clarence hit that road early on, and then when he started seeing like the what's the word I'm looking for? When he started seeing, this is only me just guessing and just thinking like the crossroads. I can't say 100% certainty, but what I say is that he saw that coming out of that 60s, coming out of the 70s, that infrastructure piece that I was talking about, like black folks had nothing going. He chose the easy route. I believe at the end of the day, that's all it was. I can choose to go down this Black Panther movement, have a good career as a lawyer, be like a Johnny Cochran, be like I forgot the other brother name that had the Wings of Justice. I could be there. I can go on and do that, and I have a decent life. Or I can take this other road here, knowing that black people don't have the support, don't have the infrastructure, don't have nothing. They offer me a lifeline to put me up 4, 6, 7, 8 notches than any other black folks. I could take this lifeline, but I have to forget about all of this. And I believe he took that. And it's not only him. That's what I'm not going to, because I started looking at it, and I started looking at some of these entertainers, some of these preachers, some of these. I looked at the whole realm of things, and I'm starting to see that's the road that a lot of black people end up going when they're too successful, or they very, very, very successful, out of reach. They took a path that took them off from associating with blackness to a certain degree. I look at a young guy. I'm not sure if he's young or not. I think he's in his 40s or 50s, and I've probably seen him. And the only thing he does is tear down Martin Luther King. His name is Chad Jackson or something like that. I'm not sure if y'all seen it. He wrote a document. He actually done a documentary recently about, Dr. King and the civil rights movement and how terrible it was for black people. But now I'm of the opinion that a lot of stuff that happened in the civil rights was not good for people. I'm of that mindset, but I am not of the mindset of tearing down one of our heroes that may just not had the right vision for the moment. So I would never tear him down, but this guy really gets into it, and he's very popular by black folks and white folks, which is something. And I'm saying he took that same path, because if you listen to his tone, you go to, now let's go move over to a sporting thing. Look at a Jason Whitlock. Now Stephen A. Smith, he's kind of on that. He's at that crossroad. He's at that crossroad in his life right now. Just listen to the way he articulates his points, and when he's saying, I want to go this path, but you know what? I got to stay over here. I went to HBCU. I got a black daughter. I got to stay over here. But, and you can tell he's straddling that line of making a decision. And it's not like we all go through that. We all hit that crossroad. Some of us choose to stay with the connection, and some of us choose to go and seek out the bag and disassociate from the Black community. And it's a tough road because I remember Richard Pryor, he made a joke about it, but Richard Pryor made a joke about the winning team. It was a joke. I'm sure y'all know Richard Pryor better than I do. And he was talking about, I want to be on the winning team. And I thought about that, man. I mean, that's just like what we do as Black people who disassociate themselves. Like they say, oh, Black folks not winning, so I'm gonna just go over here and try to fit in with this group, because it's easier. It's easier to do versus fighting this struggle. It's easy to get up in the morning, not worry about Black folks, and you go on about your way because as an individual, you will get accepted. And if you don't talk about anything Black, anything, dealing with slavery or reparations or anything, you will be accepted more. It's easy to do that. It's a hard thing to get up every morning and look up at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? We got to fight another day. After 400 years, we're still in this fight. It's not an easy thing to do. And some Black men or women just can't deal with it.
Powerful, powerful. So true. And as we begin to wind down, brothers, I want us all to contemplate for a moment on this. Think about our children growing up, because what you just said was so powerful in that alignment. Perhaps, this is speculation, when a child was young, like some of the older folks used to say, don't, do what I tell you, don't do what I say. Listen to what I tell you. Don't do what I do, listen to what I tell you. But the emphasis was supposed to have been, when I tell you to do something, that should be what you do, not what I actually do. But see, I believe we have to get to a point to where our actions and our words are in alignment. See, when we can get to the point to where our actions and our words are in alignment, then we truly will have freedom of speech, because we will be focused on making sure that all the words that we speak are going to be words of edification, even when it's against those that suppress us and come against us, because we will believe that God is going to give us that mouth of wisdom that the enemy cannot gainsay nor resist. Just like that's what our brother Muhammad Ali had. That's what, even today, what Minister Farrakhan has, a mouth of wisdom that the enemy cannot gainsay nor resist. Because when you speak the truth is attractive. The truth is pretty. The truth is fine. The thing is, we just need to learn how to speak it. And so in our closing conversation, I'd like for each of you brothers to take, and we'll start with you, Peacemaker. What can we do to more fully develop as a people, individuals, and then as a people, to get to that point to where our actions and what we speak are in alignment and we are not afraid to speak the truth?
I think the first thing we have to do is know the truth. We have to understand what we have. If you don't understand what you have and the intelligence that you have, then you're never able to articulate it in a way where you'll be able to share it with others. I think it is vitally important that we do share with our young people and these next generations that the paths that we have traveled, you may never travel, and you ought to look at another path. Just be honest about that path. Be truthful. Make sure that that's the path that you're willing to deal with, and understand that there might be repercussions with going that way. But ultimately, as long as you are doing the right thing, you're able to speak the truth, and then again have actions of truth. Again, as I said before, we gotta have our actions or our protests, and be willing to protest, but be also willing to articulate and tell people why we are protesting. This is the reasonings why. And if they don't understand, then you just show them and you continue to readily or steadily or continuously show them this is why. Some people say slavery never existed. Some people say y'all had affirmative actions and it's not necessary today. And there's a lot of us that's saying it still is necessary. Though you might not see it, though you might not understand it, we have been affected by it. We will continue to be affected by it, but we will still continue to thrive and overcome what we've gone through. As always, blessings to you all.
Powerful, my brother. Truth, come on, what you want to add to that, my brother?
I would say to the young people, as you see injustices, speak the truth, and don't be afraid, but use your words wisely. Don't go out using profanity. Just have that wisdom. As you gain wisdom, you will see the struggles in this world because you have uncovered the truth. And just speak it. Just speak the truth, and God will protect you as long as you do it the right way. Just use your words wisely. Again, our young people is our future, and we have to teach them to read, to research, and you can talk about those things that people say. Why Peacemaker just made it? Why do you have affirmative action? Why you have this? Why is the NAACP relevant today? You can be able to speak those truth because of the injustice my people is facing. And that's why I'm so involved with what's going on today. You have to be active. If you're not active, you would go by with this society, just be a standby. And people saying, oh, it's okay, but it's not. Because we face a struggle that we have never faced. Well, we have faced struggle, but this is so deep today because you have people speaking out against our people. We have to come back and speak that love to them, just break it down to them, and you will tear them up in love and action.
Powerful, my brother. I know we've all learned the phrase that we use a lot of times when we make an ending statement and we say, I share that in love. And I believe that's a powerful statement because just like Cornel West, Minister Farrakhan, they greet everybody with my brother. I mean, that's so powerful. And when you do it again in love, you could tell the stories and you could tell the truth. And I know again, Cyber, Akhi, you got a unique perspective on what life has allowed you to see and the pain or sorrow or suffering you may have gone through, from many points of view. I think you've grown to see it as how God was using you and putting you in a unique perspective based on what Peacemaker Truth has shared on what we can do going forth. How do we blend that with we as people? How do we as those that call themselves Christians and those that call themselves Muslims or Muslims, forgive me. I mean, how do we blend that? Those that may be atheists, agnostic, Zoroastrians, Judaists, Buddhists, Hinduists. How do we blend this African dysphoria where we all come together with a common goal? And I know as Malcolm said many years, put our religions in the closet and know and understand that to get to have freedom of speech, the number one thing, again, we got to do is come with a period of edification to each other so we can tell the truth and be truth tellers. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
I open every show with a statement, and I believe we don't even necessarily have to put our religions in the closet if we all realize that freedom, justice, and equality. If you're giving someone freedom, justice, and equality, that's love. That's what everything is all about. Freedom, you give me freedom, the freedom to go out and provide for my family, freedom to do the things that I like to do. You give me justice, if the justice is fair and equal, you give me equality, then you love me. But if you hinder any one of those three things, you become an enemy of me. So that's how you blend it. Get everybody to realize we all seeking freedom, justice, and equality. If we seek those things, and you are a person that you're a person that is not hindering those things, and you want me to have those things, then I consider that you love me. We all look at love as just a word, but love is a verb. It's an action. Allow me to have freedom, justice, and equality. Then I can say you truly love me.
Powerful, brother. Remind me of what's on the King's Monument in D.C., that injustice to any man anywhere is injustice to all men everywhere. Wow, with that powerful comment, brothers, I think it's time to call it a night. This is the Godfather Backside, inviting you to subscribe, to become a part of the family, share with others, smash that like button, make some comments, let us know what you're thinking below. Again, a great conversation, brothers. My brothers in our virtual studio. We are Blackmen Declare. Till next time, Godfather, Mike Side. Peace out.